Okay, so let's look at this example. So here we have a function prototype add 5, right? So in this function, if you see the definition of this function, so this function takes a number, and it adds 5 into it, right? And then it displays that number, updated number, and then it returns this value, right? So here what we are doing, basically we have a num which is 10, and then we are basically printing this before calling add 5 function num. So in this case, so num is initialized with 10. So this function should basically display before calling add 5 function 10, and then you are calling add 5 num, and then here you are doing this see out after calling add 5 function num. So what do you think here? So num should be what? It should be 15 here, because you pass 10 into this function, and then this function adds 5 into it, right? And then it returns the value, right? So what should you think here? So this should, what should be the value of this num here? So should it be after calling add 5 function, it should be 15, or it should still 10 actually, right? So let's run this code first, then we'll basically talk about it, right? Okay. So if I run this code, so you might get like a surprise result that you may feel that it's not correct. So we will talk about it. Okay, so let's run this. So here you see what is happening, right? So we have this line at line number 7 of the code. Before calling add 5 function, we have the value for num, which is 10. Then we are calling add 5 function. So your code jumps here. It basically adds 5 into num was 10, so the num becomes now 15, and then it displays that inside add 5 function 15, right? And then it returns this value, right? But after that, it comes back here, then it shows that after calling add function, and it doesn't show 15, it shows you basically 10. Why this happens, right? So let's try to understand this, okay? So here what happens that here this num that you are passing, right, to add 5 function. So num here you have 10, okay? And you are passing this 10. So the value that you have for 10 in num, that is copied into this variable num, okay? So here, the num that you are seeing here, it's a variable in main function, okay? And then this num, the value that you have for num 10, it is copying to this variable, which is a parameter for basically add 5, right? So here, the value of num in main function, it is copied to this num, okay? So this num and then this num, they have different existence, okay? So this num is keeping the copy of the num that you have passed here, okay? So here, this num is different from the num that you have defined in main function and which you have called to add 5 in line number 8, right? So whatever changes that you are making in this num, okay? So that changes will not be reflected in this num that you have defined here, okay? So because of that, it's, so you see we have, we are printing the value of num here, you see 15, and when you are printing the value of num after add 5 function, you see is still 10 basically, right? So why it happens? Because in here the parameter that we have, it is taking the copy of the variable in main function. It's taking a copy of the variable. It's taking copy. Keep that in mind. Okay. So here this num, it gets a copy. It's get a copy of the num variable that you have defined in main function. Right? And whatever changes you are making inside this function, you are making those changes in the copy variable, not the exact variable, the actual variable that you have passed. Right. So that's why basically whatever changes you are making inside main function, inside add 5 function, that is basically that it stays inside that function. It doesn't go outside that, because you are making changes inside the copy of that variable, right? Okay. So by default, when we write a data type and the parameter name or data name, so that is approach is called pass by value. We are passing basically the value of the variable. So here num, if we are calling add 5 num, so we are passing the value of num, which is 10, and that value 10 is copied to this num variable, right? And whatever changes we are making to this num variable, then it will not basically reflected to the main function actually, okay? So now how can we changes the value of the variables that we are passing, right? So is there any way that, let's say we pass this num in add 5, and then add 5 will basically change the value, and that value should be also retained outside add 5 function. Okay? Can we do that? So we can do that. So that approach is called pass by reference, right? So pass by reference, let's see how does it work, okay? So we can define pass by reference like this. Okay? So let's say, again, I will basically add 5. And here, let's say I name it this function as ref. Okay. And let's say this function name, I rename it add 5 value, pass by value, because of pass by value. I'm referring it as pass by value. Okay. And the second function name I'm keeping as pass by ref. So that's why I have add 5 ref. Okay. Ref, right? Okay, so in this function, so here pass by ref, how it is different from pass by value. So remember we have this int, which is the data type, and then the name of the parameter or data. Here we have also this thing, but what I will do basically, I will put an ampersand after that, right? So now num that you are seeing, it is passed by reference basically parameter, okay? It's passed by reference parameter, but here in this case, this num is passed by value, right? So now if I make any changes in passed by reference parameter inside the function, that changes will remain outside the function, right? So now if I do here, num is equal to num plus 5, right? And then again, I can, let's say, I can copy this line. Okay, so now here, if I add 5 into num, so num will be updated by 5, and I can also see that update outside the add 5 ref function, right? So you can check that how we can see, like we can see the updated value, right? So now let's copy again this code. So here, and let's say again, I reinitialize by 10 so that, okay. So now if I run, so here in this line, these lines, basically I'm calling, I want to see the impact of add 5 underscore value function. And here, from here to here, I want to see the impact of add 5 underscore ref, right? So here, what you see basically, the way that we are passing parameter in pass by value and pass by ref, they're same, pass by reference, they're same. Here we are also passing num, we are also passing num, right? But the difference that we are seeing here, so after the data type, we put an ampersand, which makes this data as pass by reference, okay? So now here we have to also provide the prototype of pass by ref. Okay, so now let's run this function, okay? So here you see that when you're calling pass by value add 5 underscore value function, the value of basically num remains 10, right? But when you are calling basically add 5 ref, the value of num basically changed, right? So it became 15. So you can see that whatever changes you have made inside add 5 underscore ref function, that you can also see here inside main function, right? So that's the difference between pass by value and pass by ref, right? So how will you tell that whether the parameter that you are passing, the data that you are passing, if it is passed by value or it is passed by reference? So in pass by value, you will have only the data type and the name, but in pass by reference, you will have the data type and ampersand, and then after that, you will have a name for the data type item that you're passing, right? So that's the difference between pass by reference, right? So I can again run this program for nicer output. So you see that? So now after calling add 5 function, it is still same, but in case of add 5 ref function, after that, num is basically changed to 15, right? Okay. So that's the basic difference of pass by reference and pass by value, right?